All right, we have a new program. It's called Gateway, and a lot of people are very interested in it. But they have a lot of questions. So we're going to try to answer all your questions with this video. So first of all, what is Gateway? Paul, what do you think Gateway is?
Gateway is a program that we assist individuals with ideas to get them in front of companies.
Dana, what is Gateway to you?
Gateway is the easier, softer way. The easier, softer way for an inventor. No, but it's
For
where
easier, softer way for what?
doing the hard work, which is getting into companies.
Okay. Yes. Gateway is a program where we actually do all the work for you, meaning we make sure your marketing material is spot on. It communicates quickly, concisely to a company that's looking for ideas. But also, Gateway is going to find those companies and those people that are looking for ideas and match your product with their product line to make sure it's a good fit. Mm-hmm. Now, what Gateway also does, that if it is a good fit, if they want to go forward with the licensing agreement, that's when we step in and help get that done. Okay, so big picture, Gateway helps you get your product, like Paul said, in front of the right people. And so we do all the work. Okay, but still, how does that all work? All right, so, okay, I've got a great idea, and what do I do now? Do I call you? Do I submit it? What do I do, Dana?
Okay. You can go to our website, inventright.com, and there'll be a book a call link. Book a consult, book a call. That's the first thing. You can't find the purchase link. You can't find the application submission on our website. There's a reason for that. So you book a call. So you either talk to myself, Sylvia, or Andrew, and we ask you a lot of questions about your product idea. We want to know how far you've come. You know, do you have a patent? Do you have any kind of protection? Do you have a prototype? So we ask you a series of questions. And if we feel that you would qualify for Gateway, we will send you over an application. And in the application, yep, it's by application only. So there's a series of questions that we ask you, and you fill it all out the best you can, and you submit it to us. And it comes to a team of, I think there's 8 people on our team.
Okay, but wait a minute. Before we get to that, wait a minute here.
Wait a minute.
I've got to call. You're going to interview me. What type of questions are you asking? You told me a little bit about the questions. Why are you asking me those type of questions?
Well, Gateway is a little bit special in what products we're going to choose. So if somebody calls and says, "I just have this idea. That's all I have," you're probably not the best fit for Gateway. If somebody says, "I just have a sketch on a napkin," you're probably not the best fit for Gateway. If somebody's really new, and they don't know anything about licensing, probably not the best fit for Gateway. And then we also look at categories, because we know there's certain categories that we can definitely get into, and then there's other categories that we don't really want to touch.
Okay, so we've got to make sure your product is something we want to take on. It's a product that we know the category. We know we can be successful at getting to those companies. Okay, I get it. All right, I understand that. So I fill it out. I send it to you guys. Mm-hmm. How long do I have to wait for you guys to do this? You said a review process, and how long does that take, and what is that review process all about?
Well, Paul, you can answer that question because you're in there.
Okay. Yeah, the review is where we get together as a team and we look at the product, and we make an assessment. First of all, if we understand what you presented to us, because you're selling to us first, because we have to understand it. And the better information you give us, the better we understand your product. So the more likely it is that we give it a good assessment. But if you don't give us enough information, we'll kick it back to you and ask you for more. But what we do is we look at it, and first of all, we kind of vet it ourselves. We might jump on and do a Google search. If we can find 100 others just like it, probably not a good fit for Gateway.
All right.
And I can tell you, talk about the timeline. We meet every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and the application goes to everybody on the team, so we can all review it before we come to the meeting, so we can very quickly talk about the product idea, and we get back to somebody. I always like to say by Monday the following week.
Pretty fast.
Pretty fast. We used to say within that day or on Friday, but sometimes then we don't. So I just kind of say, you'll hear from us on Monday. Now and we call everybody that we look at we call them if we want to move forward. We call them if they're going to have questions, and we call them if we're going to pass. We don't just want to send you some generic email because
So you're really trying to determine if it's something that Gateway wants to take on. Right. Okay. All right. So you don't take on everything. You're being somewhat selective, of course. So there's 8 people. You guys give it a thumbs up or whatever you do, and I'm accepted. Okay, great. So I get the call and I join. I pay the money. It's $6,000. Let's be real straight. It's $6,000. I pay the money. What happens now?
Well, I think before we do that, before they pay, we're going to send you an agreement. This agreement is written in common English. You don't need a lawyer to read it over.
Okay.
We don't want you to have to go hire a lawyer to read it. We also send you our frequently asked questions that we built because you're going to have a lot of questions. So we try to get those questions answered. And if you're satisfied that, this is something you want to move forward, you sign the document. You also get the purchase link. You sign you purchase, and we see that you purchase.
Okay.
And then we send you an email, and Paul is CC'd on the email, and we introduce you to Paul Sorensen, who will be your project manager. Now, we do have another project manager, Terry, as well, but Paul's the one you'll get more than likely.
Okay. All right. So I fill it all out, and I sign it, and I give you payment, and I'm ready to go, and you introduce me to Paul. So what is Paul going to do for me?
All right. So when I get that, the first thing is I respond and say, hey, it's great to meet with you. Here's the link to book a call with me. And it's the first introductory call. And on that call, we get to know each other a little bit. I go through an explanation of Gateway again, because transparency is so important to us. We want to make sure that what's in your mind about Gateway is what we're going to deliver.
Okay.
And so we go through that, make sure that that's clear. Then we start talking about your product, assess where you're at, and we develop a game plan to move forward. And then we move directly into the marketing piece. We call it a sales sheet, but it can be a one sheet, a sales sheet, whatever you want to call it. And we work through that and get the copy ready, get the assets. We go over what the layout's going to look like. Then I get that ordered. Then we discuss a demo video, which is not part of the Gateway program, but I've walked hundreds of people through that process. It brings your product to life. It's a great option to have. Then we want to also make sure what your IP is looking like. And if you don't have something in place, we definitely need to get a provisional patent application going. And we have a program that we will assist you to be that is part of the Gateway program. When all that's done, then I ship it over to the outreach team, and Dana and her team go to town, getting it in front of companies.
Okay, before we get there, so just so everyone's clear, we need to make sure your marketing material is going to do the job it needs to do. And you might have a website, you might have marketing material, but we're going to look at it, and if we have to tune it, fix it, we've got a team of people that can do that for you. But we know how important that is, that it communicates quickly, concisely, and it's going to be a good fit so people really understand it. Okay, I get it. But Paul also mentioned something that's really important to us, that your intellectual property, maybe you filed a PPA, maybe you have a patent, we don't really know, maybe you have a design patent. We want to look at it to make sure you have what we feel is going to be attractive to the companies we're going to submit it to. So we will review it. We've got a program called SMART IP that if you haven't filed anything, that will help you file a provisional patent application. And sometimes we'll even go a little further than that if we have to. But we need to make sure you have all these things in place. Okay, so Paul's there. He talks to you. He makes sure he understands your product. You make sure he gets all this stuff together. That's really important. But now we've got to switch it over to Dana and her team, because that's the team that's going to do what?
Oh, okay. So while Paul is working with the client, getting the marketing material ready, getting the IP ready, we, the research team, we have a couple different divisions over here. So first, we start to research websites and companies. We want to look at we want to build that list for the client. So
Okay.
the application will get sent to we have like 3 different research teams and a reach out team. So this is interesting. So the research team looks at the application, has a good description of what the product idea category is. So they start to research companies. They send over the URLs to these companies to then another research team who goes through all of those URLs, looks at every single website, really studies them to see if they're a good fit. Once we find all of those companies that are a good fit, we send it to yet another research team. Now that team finds us the people in the companies that we want to reach out to.
Wow.
So that's what Paul's working with the client. So on the back end, we're getting ready, and we have all the company names, we have their websites, we have the people we want to reach out to. So once the marketing material is done, and Paul says, "Here's the green light, guys, go for it." One of our gators, we call them the Gateway Gators. The gators, I need a little alligator here. The one of the gators gets assigned, or will usually they'll pick that product, say, "I want to work on that product," and then once the marketing material is done, Paul lets us know it's done, and then that particular gator or the reach out person will start to call and contact those companies. Yep. Once we get a company that says yes, we're open, we are going to send the sell sheet right over because we want them to see it right then in real time.
So you do a lot of work to find the right company and the right people. You probably have to email, you probably have to call, whatever you have to do to make that connection. So it's not just a random. It's not like I'm just going to send it off to a portal, but they actually know who you are, and they're ready for that product submission, and then you send it over to them.
Yep.
Wow. Yep. Okay. Well, that's really good news, because I know that's a lot of work and that's pretty painful.
So do we want to talk about what we mean when we say we're getting in, we feel like it's a right company for them?
Yeah, let's talk about that, because sometimes what I might feel is a right fit, maybe you don't feel it's a right fit. Talk about a little bit about that, because it's really important that it is a right fit.
Yeah, we get that a lot. And when we're looking for a company that's the right fit, we go into their product line, and we're not looking to see if they have your exact same thing, because that's kind of crazy. It's not a good fit if they have your exact product, because you're not part of the gateway at that point.
Yeah.
But if they have products that your product would fit in that family of products, then it's a good fit. And it's pretty easy to see that by looking at their product line. Sometimes it's a little bit of a script, because companies might not look like they're a good fit, but we don't know they have this other division. And David, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's happened before, where we reach out to a company, and it did happen where I reached out to a company and they had 8 different brands. They sold wholesale only. So when you looked at their website, the products that they had on their website were very, very minimal. But we call people. Chad and I and Brad, we love calling people because we're impatient and we want an answer right away. Right. So I called this certain company, and they said, "Oh, we have like 8 different brands, and we don't sell to the public. We don't sell online. We're a wholesaler only." So if that regular person went and looked at their website, they wouldn't see hardly anything. And so we backed that up with some really good notes and really good, information.
Yeah, I want to get to that in a minute. So it's really important that we find the right people at the right companies, and we do that by really having good information and tracking them down. I know that takes longer than people really realize, because it's hard to get those people but you do. But Dana, tell me why those companies are so responsive to us versus maybe an inventor.
Well, I don't think, is because we know the process. We know the licensing language. We know what to say, and they can tell that we know what we're doing. And I do believe that companies would rather talk to us first than the inventor, because they don't, even if they're not interested, it's kind of easier to sell somebody else you're not interested than tell the inventor. And we're not, they also know we're not going to come back and rebuttal them with, but you don't know what you're talking about, or you're not right, or you don't understand. And, and so I think companies, when we say we're representing a client, they're more apt to talk to us. And I think that's why
Okay. So it's business to business.
yeah. Yeah.
So okay. All right. So we submit it to those companies we think it's the right fit. We've got great marketing material. We have some type of intellectual property protection. So Paul, you're kind of managing this now. They've done this now, and some of the responses are coming in. And what are you doing when there's some interest? What
Yeah.
happens then?
Yeah. So interest can be several different things. Sometimes I'll get a message anytime that the outreach team or the Gators get a response, they will
Hmm.
forward that to me and I share it with the client because we want
Okay.
you as a client to be in the loop almost in real time.
Okay.
We're not going to wait 3 weeks to tell you that. In most cases, it's within a couple hours of me receiving it. You've got that
Got it.
message. And those messages can be anywhere from, hey, we've looked at it. Thanks for sending it, but we're not interested, to
Okay.
they might have some questions. They say, hey, what about this? What about that? They
Right.
haven't said no, but they haven't said yes because you almost never get a yes right. It's always a no or a maybe. And the maybe
Okay.
is when they have some questions, they want to review it. Um, then it moves to the next stage that Stephen was talking about, that they are serious. They want to take this on, but now they're filling it out to see if you are somebody they can come to an agreement with. And so we'll start talking about some firms. A lot of times they'll throw our contract over and test the water, see how the client feels about that.
Okay.
And so that's where I
But
can go through that contract and make sure it's good. I've seen hundreds of them. I know what's good, what's bad, what's normal, what's not normal,
okay.
and we'll guide you through. And sometimes you have to make hard decisions that you can't agree to some things, but no contract is perfect. Everybody has
Okay.
to give a little bit.
Okay. Because I don't, the typical person doesn't have any experience negotiating a contract. So I know we're not patent attorneys. We cannot give legal advice, but we work behind the scenes to look at those contracts. Paul has seen thousands of them at this time. Can really tell what's fair, what's not fair, and how to negotiate to get some of those terms.
Hmm.
So that seems to work pretty darn good. But before someone signs a licensing agreement, Paul, what do we tell people?
After we have gone through and done all the negotiations and got it to where both parties are pretty happy, this is when you really need to have a licensing attorney
Okay.
look at it to look
All right.
at the legalities of it. We're not
All right.
asking them to jump in and now scramble all the eggs again. We already did all that. They are just looking for the legal language that might be
Okay.
something that you need to be concerned about.
Okay. All right. Last question I have here. This sounds like you're doing a lot of work, and I know you guys do a lot of work here. Um, as the person that has the idea, do I have access to the work that you've done? Because how do I know you're doing all the work that you say you're doing?
So that's a good question. So what we do is at the end of the process, we will send you a report that has all the companies that we've been working with, the notes that are treating to them, the individuals we're talking to, and we send that over. And then, as I mentioned earlier, all along the way, you'll be seeing the companies that are
All right.
uh, responding. As far as a master list, it's kind of hard to send that over because we don't know who's going to be open and who we can get through
Okay.
to. And so that's why we do it in real time. And then in the end, we will give you the whole
All of it.
kit and caboodle.
Be ready for a big
Wow.
report. Be ready for a big report. Yeah.
It's okay. It's pretty thorough.
Yeah.
So let's say at the very end, how many companies are you guys reaching out for me? I mean, are you doing five, six, seven? How many companies truly are going to be looking at my idea?
Our commitment is that we will get 10 companies that will give a response.
Okay.
But that very rarely means that there were only 10, right, Dana?
No, it never means that there were only 10. It means that there may be 30, 40, 50, 60, 80 companies on your list that we have reached out to. Because our
Got it.
goal is to continue to find the companies that are a good fit, continue to reach out. And
Okay.
so we may reach out to, it's not like we're reaching out to 10 companies and all 10 of those are going to be responsive to looking at your idea. So we may reach out, if we have
Okay.
30 or 40 or 50 on your list, we may need to reach out to 20 or 25 to get into 10 to get a response from 10. But it's
Wow.
interesting
Okay.
though. It doesn't mean that, yes, our goal is 10. Our commitment is 10. Our guarantee is 10. But
Okay.
if we're reaching out to 25 companies at one time, those responses will trickle in. So if there's 11 or 12 or 13 or 14 or 15 companies, we're not stopping at 10. We're going to send those sell sheets over to all
Okay.
15.
Good.
That's another real good point that I wanted to make is it isn't immediate. And
Yeah.
once we turn it over to the outreach team, it can be anywhere from a couple weeks to a couple months before we can get response from Tim. You'll get sprinkling in or some immediately. Some are so responsive, but you
Okay.
got to remember these companies are just busy and
All
a
right.
lot of them are very structured. I know one locally here that they say, send me your sales sheet and don't call us for 6 weeks because our review meeting is once a month and
But
you might not get on the agenda for this one. So
Yeah.
don't
but
even
Paul,
call us.
I'm thinking about it all the time. Can I call you and talk to you about it?
You know, I'm available all the time via email.
All
Our
right.
clients can book calls with me whenever is necessary. There's not a real restriction. You know, we like that our time is respected, but we don't ever want you to feel like, oh, I can't call or certainly never apologize because you email me. That is why I'm here.
Okay, let's talk about the very end now. You've reached out to all these companies, and for some reason, I got no's, and that's
Yeah.
that's going to happen. What do I do now? What do you guys do with me now? I know that. Do I just drop it? Do I throw it in the trash can? Do I? What do I do now?
Yeah, we actually give you several options. I mean, there's always your option that you can just do nothing. We don't
Okay.
recommend that. That's not what I would personally do. But
Okay.
you can move on and reach out yourself. We
Okay.
also offer a discounted program to have you with a one-on-one coach that can coach you through and teach you to hone your skills in reaching out. So there's several options there.
Yeah, I also want to mention that sometimes when a company says no today, doesn't mean it's no tomorrow. That we do recommend that you resubmit, right? Because sometimes with the feedback that you get, you might have to make some changes. So I don't think it's ever really over. And I think that's something that we want to talk to you about, something that we're concerned about to keep you still in the game, and other things you can do yourself now to continue it. Because I don't think it's ever just over. It's just that we reached the limit of what we guaranteed we were going to reach out to you, and there's still some things to do. Here's the other thing too. I want everybody to know: just because those companies have said no, there might be a reason and something to learn from that. Because what I've always learned is that what's really important is just because I got a no doesn't mean I'm going to stop, right? And I really want everybody to know that. So, have we missed anything through this whole thing? Dana, I know
Yes,
you're
I
dying
know.
here. What else did we miss?
Oh, so I'm going to ask you a question, Stephen. How long is our gateway program?
Our Gateways program doesn't really, I hate to tell you guys,
I know, but everybody else,
it doesn't really
yeah,
end. I mean, I say it ends, but it really doesn't end because
it really doesn't.
if for some reason some of those other companies come back because they do take time, we're going to notify you. Right? It doesn't just stop. No, it does continue because Paul's right. It takes longer than I wish it would take, but good companies need time to do a good evaluation. And sometimes they're doing trade shows or sometimes they're doing this. So they don't get back to us. But when they do get back, we're going to reach back out to you and go, hey, we got some, because that just happened recently where we kind of went to the end, but a company came back. I think did we reach back out to a company or did they reach back out to us?
We did. We reached back out to him. The client said it was a deal that was moving forward. They were really interested. They were doing testing, and then it just kind of fell flat. Like nobody was responding. They weren't reaching out to the client. Client wasn't. We didn't hear anything, and I think 6 months had gone by.
Well,
And the client said, "Hey, can you?" And he had already got his 10. And he said, "Hey,"
Okay.
because they knew that I personally had a good relationship with this company. And he just reached out to Paul and said, "Hey, can Dana reach out to this company and find out what's going on?" And I reached out, and they're back on track again. And the company just comes back and says, "Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
we've been really busy," because we have to understand 6 months of time in the industry, in the world of product development, is like a week.
It's not that long.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, here's another thing, too. We had a student recently that had a product that was kind of unique. The one line benefit statement that you guys helped him with was pretty strong. and you got a response within a day or two or a week or
Oh, yeah.
two, and
Yeah.
he was able to sign a kind of a deal within weeks. So there's a full gamut here, everybody. You know, sometimes it's going to take longer than you care. That's normal. Sometimes it goes pretty fast too.
Hmm.
Depends on
Yeah.
the idea, depends on the timing of what a company's doing. Because this company wanted to get in front of a really big company, and so they needed to get things done very, very quickly. That's why they move so fast. Dana, what else?
Yeah. I just think that coming in, if anybody wants to apply for Gateway and come into Gateway, come in with your patience, because this is not going
All
to
right.
happen overnight. It's just
Okay.
not. It's just not. It's I don't even know how
Okay.
to express that enough. That this all
Be
takes
patient.
time.
Okay. All right.
That's why there's no.
Paul,
That's why
anything
there's
else you want to add to it?
Yeah. When, you're gonna know when we're done. We'll never fade away. We're never gonna stop. I guess I have two things. First of all, we're not done until we've got your 10. There's not a time limit in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days,
Okay.
a year, whatever. We are with you until we get a response from 10 companies.
Got it.
When we do
Okay.
get to that point, though, I'll let you know, and we will book a call. And so we have a kind of a wrap it up, kind of a collection of the minds, and the client, myself, and one of the co-founders, either Stephen or Andrew, are going to meet with you to talk about it.
Got
It's
it.
not ever going
Okay.
to be fade away.
Okay. All right, you guys, thank you for talking a little bit about Gateway. I know a lot of people are asking about it. It's probably one of the most popular programs we have. And we've been doing this now for 25 years. We're pretty darn good at it. And companies, they like that we do know what we're doing. They like that we can speak the language. They like that there's a cushion a little bit that they can talk to us freely about the product submission. But the one thing that I really like that we're telling companies that we want to save them money, we want to save them time, and we want to send them good products, so they call us back and go, can you please send us more? And that's the goal at InventRight with this new program called Gateway. Okay. All right, you guys, thank you very much.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Paul.
Keep on working hard. Thank you, Gators. Thank you, Paul. All right. Thanks, everybody.